Hey y'all, what's going on? It's Alice Music here, and we are back with a huge update. It's going to be V23 for MMC1, 1.19.2, otherwise known as Medieval Minecraft. It's for Fabric. So yeah, V23 update. A lot of different changes with balance. There's been bug fixes. There's some new features. It's going to be really awesome. First things first, though, we'll get right into it. If you are updating from an existing world, then you need to reset the Minecells dimension because there's been a lot of changes with that. And then you can read the guide that'll be posted in the changelog in the Discord. And the guide, of course, right here, right at the top. So make sure you do that. And on to the mods that have been added. Big thing here, RPG difficulty is back. And I think there were some fixes that had to be done, but it's in now, and that's a really good thing. It's gonna add some scaling difficulty for us to deal with. And that's going to be on top of dungeon difficulty. So it just helps to balance out the mod pack quite a bit more. But another real big thing is that Medieval Origins Revival has been added, and that's going to be replacing Medieval Origins. And what this is a rework of the Medieval Origins themselves by our very own Muon. Who is a data pack like master. So, like I said, it's a rework of Medieval Origins, and it's basically gonna provide like different balancing, quality of life type stuff. There's been I think a couple of name changes to kind of add to kind of fit the lore a lot better. Based on their abilities and such. So the origins that we have, of course, is Arachne. I don't think there's any changes with that. There's Banshee. There's one specific change I can think of, and that's going to be it shoots a sonic shriek out at your foes, and that deals magic damage to them. So sonic shriek no longer gives strength like 6 or whatever it was for so many seconds, but it's going to shoot out some magic damage at enemies. And I do think that makes a lot more sense lore-wise and as an ability. So then we have Incubus, which was formerly called Daemon, but Incubus I do believe is a better name and matches matches the abilities in a more lore-friendly way that it does have. Then we have Dwarf, of course, which I think there was the night vision, I think, was fixed with that. Then we have Wood Elf, which was formerly called Elf, but now it's called Wood Elf. This will probably be the premier archery origin. You'll definitely be using a bow with this origin, and it's got improved damage with arrows, like better than what Elf had. And it also has something called Empowered Shot, which is basically like a one-shot, one-kill sniper type shot. It your arrow travels with faster velocity, and it gains like a lot more damage that way. So I think Wood Elf is definitely going to be the classic choice for archery players. And on top of that, you might be weaker with a lot of the melee weapons in the game, probably all the melee weapons, but you actually do attack faster. That is the compensation for being weaker with dealing weaker damage with melee weapons, is that you attack faster, which actually makes sense for an archer character. So then we have Fae. The only thing I know that should be fixed with Fae is that it had a shorter reach distance, but now it does not have a shorter reach distance. That was actually a bug, And I had no idea. I thought Fae was just supposed to have shorter reach distance, but it doesn't have a shorter reach distance now, and that's a good thing. We have Goblin, and yes, the health thing with Goblin has been fixed. We have Gorgon, which major rework. One of its big things is that I think it has a chance to spawn automatons when it gets attacked now. So that's a really cool thing. It's way better than Silverfish. I do believe it does actually get paralyzed in the daytime now if you're not wearing a helmet. So yeah, that Gorgon's gotten like a huge rework, and you can see the face on Medieval Origins Revival is the face of a Gorgon. So that's kind of like the main thing. Moon Elf, though, is something I'm really excited about. And some of the stuff I suggested for a rogue type character has actually been added in the form of this new origin called Moon Elf. So basically, Moon Elf cannot sleep. You have 5 hearts. That's the downside. The upside is you have 50% more damage with daggers. That does include the primordial daggers. So the rogue builds are going to be insane with this origin. There's when you're sneaking, the way you sneak is based off of light level. So if you're in darkness, which is a certain light level, and I'm not sure the exact light level of it, but when you're in darkness, you can sneak and your character will actually be invisible. And you can lose the aggro of mobs doing this. It's like true invisibility. And it's really funny. You can shift and sneak, and you can almost like kind of play chicken with the mobs a little bit that way. But you have a timer that's going down as you sneak, so you can only be invisible for a certain amount of time. And when you make your first attack, it's an attack that does extra damage, and it does break the invisibility. And then there's a little timer that counts down before you can have that bonus damage again from sneaking when invisible. But yeah, Moon Elves are going to be like the ultimate rogue assassin type character, and it's going to have true assassin mechanics. And honestly, it's going to have that without really being too broken, in my opinion. So it's going to be a really awesome character. And I mean, 5 hearts. That's pretty punishing. Oh, and another thing is that it has it can roll faster. Like the cooldown on rolling is just a little bit faster than the other origins. So yeah, Moon Elf is going to be sick for rogue type characters. There's Necromancer, which is basically the same, except it has some sort of siphon type ability now, as well as its other abilities. So that's pretty cool. Ogre did get a major rework. The important thing is that it deals 25% more damage with axes. That's really good, because the monk build uses the Pillar of the Monkey King's staff, which counts as an axe for the purposes of enchanting, and being able to deal 25% more damage with that staff, Ogre is actually going to end up being the best monk. So a lot of monk people who play the monk build are going to be playing Ogre. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got Pixie. I think the only thing with Pixie is that it might have a bit of magic resistance, I think. But other than that, it remains the same. Plague Victim remains the same as always. Siren, it might remain the same, or either that or its Siren's Call ability may have been a little bit changed. And then I think there is something you can do to charm villagers to actually get cheaper trades. So that's pretty cool for Siren. And then, of course, we have Yeti. Paladin, Knight, and Werewolf from the original mod are removed. Werewolf, of course, being removed for redundancy because Bewitchment has its own version of Werewolf. Knight is removed for redundancy because there were two Knights. There was this one in Medieval Origins, and there was the one in RPG Origins. The one in RPG Origins is objectively better in every single way. Players would also get confused as which Knight they should pick, so we remove the Knight from Medieval Origins, and we have the one from RPG Origins. And then Paladin has been removed because there's something, there might be something in the works for that. So, without saying too much. So, yeah. And another big thing is that all the weapons that, if, like, say an Origin were to get more or less damage with certain weapons, it works with all the weapons from these mods here. So, and there's also integration with Dehydration and Environment Z. And for the Mer mod, which makes, I don't know if that's in MMC, but the Mer mod is a mod that allows you to have mermaid tails, and they have it work with Siren and Merling as well. So that's pretty good. I like that a lot. So that's one of the really, really big changes. Decorative blocks forked. The Winnebago made this one. The Winnebago also works on Zenith, which is the Apotheosis port. So, and it's a good thing that Decorative blocks was forked, because I know there was that issue with G that was fixed by the Modern Fix mod, but it's nice to have it fixed within the mod itself. So, the Decorative blocks, we have a forked version of it by the Winnebago. Biome music by some add-ons. So what Biome music does is that it adds, like, biomes are going to play more varied music, playing both world and biome specific music. There's also a way to add custom music, because you can create a resource pack and it tells you how. I also find it very interesting that you can add pitch variants to music for slightly different sounding songs, and I do wonder how good the pitch variance is. I also know that I actually can export music files in .ogg from FL Studio, so I think that's kind of interesting. So I wonder if this pitch variance in the config is good, or if theoretically, if I were to add something, if I would just pitch it in FL Studio. I'd probably pitch it here, but I'm just curious on how this works right here. But yeah, this looks like a pretty cool mod. So, environmental water. So all this does is it adds, basically the watercolor is gonna match the biome, and it looks like, I wonder, yeah, it looks like elevation affects it as well. So that's actually a pretty cool visual effect to have. A lot of Compat stuff for repurposed structures, just because a lot of newer stuff was added, like the gazebos, which are the bookshelves and spell binding tables set up in villages that you can find. And it's a full setup, so if you do find that, that's pretty good. You don't have to create the setup yourself to create spell books. You can just find a gazebo, and the paladins are priests and better witch huts. Yeah. Compat for all this, so that's really nice. Piglin safety. Basically, yeah, very simple. Makes Piglins fire immune. It turns that into true. Piglin entities and Piglin brutes, they are gonna be immune to fire/lava, which honestly makes sense, lore-wise. So Smite-a-lot is actually really cool. That's going to change paladins quite a bit. Basically, yeah, it's a data pack, and it brings an ability called Smite, I believe, it's Smite, to the actual weapons that are added in paladins and priests. So the maces, the claymores and I believe the hammers. And it's going to deal damage based off of healing power in addition to your regular melee damage. So you can actually scale some damage off of healing power now. You're going to absolutely wreck shop against the undead. So, yeah, there's going to be a couple of ways of building Paladin now. There's going to be like healing power, which you would probably be using Smite quite a lot, like the mod says. Or you would just use Divine Judgment, which is another spell that you can cast, and that actually scales off of your regular physical attack damage. So you can build off of healing power, or you can build off of physical melee damage. Or I guess you can go hybrid, it looks like, as well. So that's a really nice ability. Added Fabrishot. It's used to take large screenshots. So if you want to get a wider picture, that's what you can do. And I know a lot of people like Fabrishot, so that has been added to the pack. Fix experience bug. This is a bug that I have ran into. I just don't run into it very often. It's basically you'll travel to another modded dimension like the Nether or the End, and there's a bug where your experience is displayed as 0 until you either earn a new experience point or you log out of the game and log back in. This is kind of interesting for stuff like Enigma Resonator, which is a very powerful enchant that is completely dependent upon how much experience you have. If it's displayed as 0, then you're going to wonder why you just all of a sudden lost a lot of damage. This also blocks you from using enchanted item or enchanting items like the enchant table, or using any items that you know are going to require experience. So yeah, and it's annoying that that bug exists, because it's like you really do have the experience that you're supposed to have, but it's displayed as 0, so it's going to count as 0 when that happens. But this mod right here fixes that bug, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. Fast paintings improves the loading times of paintings. There's no painting rendering lag, no tick lag. Customizable painting models and particles, yes. And, of course, more reactive when support is broken. But, yeah, it's a performance mod to optimize paintings and how they load and such. So, I like that. That's actually really nice. Neruina, I guess, if that's how you pronounce that. I kind of know what that does. Basically, if you were to get a ticking entity and it were to crash your pack, I believe it just straight up deletes the ticking entity or whatever it is that's ticking that's about to crash your mod pack. If another mod causes the player to crash on tick, the player is actually kicked instead. So yeah, of course the player doesn't get deleted, but the player gets kicked. The entity immediately gets killed. Okay. The block entity, tile entity, or block state will no longer tick. You can still access the block inventory if it has one. That's really good. And then that item will stop ticking in the inventory, but will still persist and function in recipes and most uses. Nothing is lost. So yeah, it basically just fixes entities from ticking entities, specifically from crashing your world. And if there's a ticking player, then it's gonna kick them from the server. So, and yeah, important disclaimer right here. Yeah, very important to read that. Great mod name. I love this mod name so much. Load my effing tags. So basically it prevents Minecraft from throwing out an entire tag if like one or more entries of the tag is apparently, you know, considered invalid. There's going to be a message found within the game. And if tags are like cooked, or if more info similar to the base game can be found within the log of the server/client the mod is running. Okay. So the reason behind it is that there can be a mod or a data pack that can add like an invalid entry. And if that can happen, like for example, this one right here, that, you know, it would lead to a game breaking thing where all mineable blocks, all pickaxe mineable blocks end up being unmineable. And, you know, that does break the game. So this fixes stuff like that. So FTB XMod Compat. Basically, I think this adds Compat to any FTB mods. Yeah, all mod dependent. Okay. Yeah, this compatibility mod to provide cross mod integration between FTB and non-FTB mods, like FTB quests, if REI or JEI is present, the quests that use that mod for displaying recipes for items with item tasks with item rewards. FTB quests, so use that mod for displaying the items obtained from any configured loot crates, which is rewards from the reward table from quests. So yeah, that's pretty good for us, and to show, like, you know, what you get stuff from when doing quests. Which it is important. Do the quests. Do all the quests. Read the quests, because they have a lot of info, especially the tutorial quests. Redirectionor is a performance mod. It provides optimization, of course, much like these mods here. So they're using the technique of, looks like, replacing references to element values in enum classes with public static final filled value references. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I know I added Redirectionor to MMC and Prominence pretty early on. As soon as I knew about it, before it was in the mod packs themselves, and it did seem to improve performance pretty well, and everyone typically had the same consensus that the performance was improved. And of course, it's designed to be compatible with every mod. So if there is some sort of compatibility issue, they have a GitHub. So that's always nice. And then better chunk loading, that's going to be a performance mod. Wow, okay. I didn't know it went that far. It predicts player movement, and then it preloads the chunk in an area ahead of them. Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. I wonder how much I can mess with that. Increases chunk loading speed in general, which I have noticed that. That's what this mod does. And then it changes the vanilla chunk loading around the player to be more lazy / less reactive, which reduces the overall amount of chunks being loaded and unloaded. Yeah, chunk loading is a pretty big thing, and that can be a big thing that lags Minecraft a lot sometimes. But this basically does what it says it does. It loads chunks better by doing all these things here. And then there's config settings for it, which is good. No known incompatibilities, of course. So yeah, and support them on Patreon if you want to. So that's good. Client crafting. This one's actually really nice. It basically makes crafting UIs more responsive by eliminating server delay. And I have experienced that a lot when crafting in servers. So that's really nice. And it's only required client side. That's actually a plus. And yep, looks like it's by the same individual here. So, and then of course removing medieval origins because we replaced it with our own rework. So that's really nice. So another really nice quality of life change. Rivers are going to no longer stay frozen after winter. That's a config thing. They added quests for the end remastered eyes. So now everyone, if they read the quests, they're going to know that End Remastered is in this mod pack, and they can read what eyes they need to get to unlock the end. There's a mobs quest category, which is good because there are a lot of mobs that have been added to MMC, and people do ask questions sometimes about, you know, what mob is this and such. So it's good that we have a mob quest now. Backpacks and storage quest category, yes, because backpacks, I know backpacks for sure have changed, and I know people do ask questions about storage quite a bit. So we have quests for that now. New quests to the mob section, of course. Added a getting stronger section to the tutorial. That's really nice because a lot of people ask the generic question of how do I get stronger, and I tell them to read the build guide or watch the videos. But it's nice that we can have some generic things for people to know about in the tutorial, to know how to actually progress onto the next stage once they've got their survival setup going. Adds new quests for in progression, which is good. Adding many new quests to the bosses category. Quests for new flasks. Tweaked nether quests. Added the mythic mounts, mythic mobs, and simply swords guidebooks to the tutorial quests. That's actually really good because people ask about this stuff like constantly, and the tutorial can now teach them. Or give them the book, rather, to teach them. So, Excalibur mod support for Zenith, Supplementaries, Graveyard, Twilight Forest, Ecologics, and another furniture. Yeah, that's pretty nice to have that texture pack mod support for these mods here. I call it a texture pack just because it changes textures, but technically it's a resource pack, but yeah. Added connected textures from mini grass blocks such as BYG Lush Grass. And that will actually be noticeable when you're exploring and traveling from biome to biome. So that's actually going to look really nice in my opinion. Added Excalibur Blood Swings. I'm probably going to demonstrate that when I do the build demonstration videos. Because I want to do more than just the build guides. I want to add actual build demonstrations so you know what the builds are actually capable of. And the build guide videos are purely just to tell you how to do the build. But the build demonstration videos will include progression and will also include like what the build is capable of at certain stages of the game. And then I'll just show this resource pack, I'm assuming add-on for Excalibur and getting the Excalibur Blood Swings in there. Added Excalibur Tutor add-on. Okay, so people who like to decorate a lot, try that black, white, and light gray glazed terracotta and see how it looks with this add-on for Excalibur. This is really important. Added more bosses to the see bosses tag to prevent them from getting buffed more than intended. I actually didn't know that some of them were getting buffed more than intended. Maybe Obsidian was getting buffed more than intended, but also very important. So you can't, less ways to cheese a boss, being targeted, preventing them from being targetable by boss excluding abilities. Added a warning at the bottom of the final tutorial quest telling users to claim the guidebooks once they have storage available. Yeah, that's just really, really important all around because those guidebooks can actually answer a lot of questions that people typically ask in the Discord. I do really like a lot of Architect's palettes blocks. A lot of them have actually been used in my build guide videos and more coming up for V23 once it hits. But a lot of people also ask for vertical slabs. People really, really, really like their vertical slabs. So it's nice that we can actually have Architect's palettes vertical slabs. Because I actually think this is a very underrated decoration mod that adds just a ton of decorative blocks. change some more quests to a more neutral wording, like kill is going to be defeat, for example. And I do think that's good, and it'll, you know, help be less confusing when reading the quests. Hid the inventory profile next sort keys in the Traveler's Backpack GUI. That's really good. We don't want overlap, and we don't want bloat in our GUIs. So, re-enable modern fix blast search trees for better performance and faster world and server join times. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing, especially like if you just like spawn in a forest or something, or you're about to enter a forest. I mean, it's going to be searching for these trees in mass to help your mod pad perform better. So, made feline night vision work properly. That is really nice, and that is kind of it's not the number one complaint, but it's probably the number two complaint about feline. Is that the night vision did not work. So now it works properly. Now this is another really, really big one, and it's for balance. It really, really had to be done. Disabled MC Story Mode's armor set bonus abilities for Adamantine Impervium, Redstone Riot, Shield of Infinity, Star Shield, and Sword Breaker. So let's go through what all of these abilities are and why they should be disabled. Adamantine Impervium being the number one balance breaker in the list. If you watch my warrior build guide video, you would already know what it does and why it's so ridiculously good, specifically for player versus environment, like mobs and bosses and stuff. But if you were to take any damage, you would only take 10% of that instead. That's effectively 90% damage reduction on its own. That's not counting any enchants you have or anything like that. It's just straight up 90% damage reduction. That is absolutely ridiculous for an armor to have. So the only real thing we could do to balance that is disable its ability. We have to disable that minus 90% damage reduction. Redstone Riot had something similar. I believe it had 25% damage reduction when you had the full set. So that is really powerful, especially when you stack it with other things. Shield of Infinity had something, again, rather similar. It reads out as a high chance to negate all damage from, I think, the attacking source. And I tested it out myself. The way it works is that I personally believe it has to detect that you're being attacked. So you always do take the first hit. I tested this on the Warden. And I tested it 100 times just to see what that chance actually was. And on average, that chance is about 73% chance to negate all damage. That's rather high. And it even says in the config of MC Story Mode armors that you might want to disable the Shield of Infinity bonus for PvP. So, yeah. That's been disabled. Star Shield was also pretty gnarly because it made it to where you could only be hurt by netherite weapons. And that is just so, like, if you had that set and no one really knew what it did, you would seem like you were invincible, right? Because no one's going to use netherite weapons in a mod pack typically. So, and then there's the Sword Breaker where you take extra damage from axes, but you're immune to swords. So that's still kind of pretty broken. But the armor points on these sets right here have been buffed to like compensate for them losing their set bonus. So that is good. But they are no longer a hero of the village armorer gift. And to be fair, if you did the setup and you created a bunch of blacksmith villagers and created a raid farm around them, then it wouldn't be too long before you got like a full set of one of these. So yeah, it's all of this had to happen for the balance of the game. So, updated Wizards, Minecells, Environment Z, and the miscellaneous quest pages with up-to-date information. Yeah, that's pretty good because a lot of that stuff has changed. So from Fabrishot, which is the large screenshot, that is automatically bound to F2. So if you're used to taking screenshots with F2, it's going to be taking the large screenshot. So just be aware of that. Also, bound origin active power to G. That's the default binding for it until it was like broken by decoration blocks, and no one knew for like a long time what was interfering with that. With that, that key, because G would not work for anything. But it turns out it was that mod. So, but it's been fixed. We have decoration blocks forked, so now you can bind your you can bind anything to G, including the origin active powers. So they changed the order of quest categories to represent progression and difficulty. I do think that's actually very important because a lot of people do ask about progression and difficulty and what order of dimensions they should go in and such. Then this is the buff-based armor points for these sets up here. Slightly nerfed the damage boost from RPG Origins Brute and Archer. I think that is important because their damage boosts were just like way too high. It was pretty insane the amount of damage that you could do with both of those origins, especially since Brute could do it with both melee and magic. Because Brute's damage boost was like 100% against something that had, I think, over 100 HP, and that's like every single boss in the game. So Brute was kind of easy mode against bosses. Archer was the same thing, very similar, except no, it didn't need the mob or boss that it was facing to have any health. It just straight up had a damage boost. So Archer has less of a damage boost, and Brute has less of a damage boost. I don't know the specific number. I can test it, but yeah, it's very important that way for balance. No longer hero of the village armor gift. Now this is another really important one. Rebalanced magic weapons to make staves and wands more viable. Yeah, that's super important, especially for the caster build, because pure casters haven't been that strong unless you would actually use like a spell sword, or you would use one of the legendary things like Spirit Sword or Starforge to actually cast your spells, because they can have, especially because they can have enchants like Void Strike and Enigma Resonator, which are super strong. So now the staves and the wands particularly have been very underutilized, if not even used at all. But they're rebalanced to be more viable. So wand builds are going to become a thing. I, along with a lot of other people, have had this thought for a while that it would be cool for people to kind of run around with shields and wands. To block with your shield, you would just press Alt right click, and then you would let go, and you could like cast with your wand. And I do have builds planned out for that, and I have even a pretty cool name for them. So that's going to be a thing in V23. The recipe book works again. I mean, I personally don't like the recipe book, but a lot of players, especially I find players coming from like a more vanilla Minecraft experience, they want to have their recipe book. I've been playing Minecraft since alpha, so I'm kind of used to memorizing the majority of recipes and Google any of the niche ones that I don't know. But a lot of players do like the recipe book. Some are not used to REI crafting. So the recipe book decreases in performance, but players do insist on having it. So the recipe book is in. So if you want to use it, use it. I personally don't recommend it. I recommend using REI to craft. It's easier and faster in my opinion, but if you like the recipe book, it's enabled now and you can use it. Just be aware that it will decrease in performance. You will lag a little bit when using it. Made Bewitchment Silver Alloy Forgeable. That is really nice for the Bewitchment Silver. This is super important for balance. Made the Prismatic Cobweb and the Enchantment Library more expensive to craft. Both of these things were actually rather powerful, especially Prismatic Cobweb because it could just like get rid of a curse on your armor, especially if you're going to transfer from Berserker's Fury to the Riot Glove. It was very easy to get rid of Berserker's Fury from your armor because it's a cursing chant, and the Prismatic Cobweb was so cheap to create. The Enchantment Library was really cheap to create, and you could, I think there was something you could do in it to where you could get like a lot of mending books out of it for pretty cheap. So it's like, whoa, that definitely needs to be more expensive to craft, and now it is. So that's a good balance change. Making Void Strike and Enigma Resonator slightly more equal, I think, is fair, especially since Void Strike, I do tend to find, is really good for slower hitting weapons, but those weapons also hitting a lot harder, dealing more damage, and if Void Strike pops on that, then that's a crazy amount of damage. Enigma Resonator, of course, I don't know if it's going to get like a nerf and Void Strike's going to get just more of a chance to proc. That would be my guess. But maybe Void Strike is just getting more of a chance to proc and Enigma Resonator staying the same. But either way, I do think Void Strike is going to be kind of definitely used on a lot of the harder hitting stuff, but the stuff that's also slower. So your goal is to like kill whatever you're trying to kill in just a few hits, while Enigma Resonator is all about the damage per second, just consistent damage, consistently attacking your opponent. And that does fall more in line to classic RPG tropes. Skulk Snappers are now completely disabled, thank God. I'm so happy about that, you have no idea. I'm actually so happy about that. They cause crashes, yes. It's annoying. It's a ticking entity crash. You have to kill the Skulk Snapper. It's annoying to deal with. I'm glad they're just disabled now. And now you can just go into the other side dimension without worrying about Skulk Snappers. Because they're just disabled now. They're not going to cause you to crash anymore because they don't exist anymore. They've been thrown into the void. They are deleted. They are not here. I'm very thankful for that. Here's another big one that people have been asking for quite a while now. They have buffed the Lord Soul crafted Souls-like weaponry weapons. That is the Merriam Souls-like weaponry weapons, specifically the ones you craft with a Lord Soul. They are also harder to get, yes, because the bosses from them have been buffed. I know that. And the Wither itself has also gotten a generic buff across the board. So these weapons are harder to get, but they are going to make at least good mid-game weapons until you get like a crazy good, I guess, simply sword weapon is my guess. But yeah, a lot of people do like their Souls-like weaponry weapons, so it's good that they are buffed and that they can keep up with stuff that you'll find in dungeon difficulty type areas in your playthrough. So Potion Charms now only work when equipped into the Trinket slot. That's really good. I thought it was like that already, but now it's straight up like that for sure. So yeah, you can only have one Potion Charm active at a time. And it has to be in the Trinket slot, which means that if you have Mending and Unbreaking on it, you actually have to manually take it out and hold it, likely in your offhand in order to heal it. So that's good. That's good for balance because Potion Charms are very strong. Tools are no longer replaced before breaking. Yeah, a lot of people would complain about that message that they would get when a tool is like at low durability and you keep getting the same message and then the tool gets replaced. And the tool will actually get replaced before breaking. So, yeah. Potion charms can be equipped in either charm slot. Yes, that's good. People should be able to at least choose which charm slot they put it in. Separated boss strength from dimension difficulty from mini bosses like the Wither. So this is what I was talking about with the Wither. Instead of 300 HP in some areas and 15,000 HP in others. And yes, it was really like that. It will be around 1200 HP in most areas. And it depends on difficulty and player amount. The player amount thing is actually really cool for servers. And depending on the difficulty, of course, whether you're playing on easy, normal, or hard. Buff some incredibly weak bosses like those from Archon. That's good because those bosses were pretty on the weak side for this mod pack. And there was some rather powerful things that you could get from them, especially something like the Heaven's Dial. That is an item that's very powerful, so it's a good thing that those bosses are buffed. Graveyard, you could get a powerful staff from that boss. And then, of course, Souls-like weaponry we've already went over. So, yeah, the bosses do need to match the loot that they give. Mob displayed level adjusted slightly to more accurately reflect mob strength. Yes, absolutely. Capping magic protection at a max level of 5 due to new protection exclusivity changes. Yes, you can get magic protection with regular protection now. You can have it both on the same piece. But magic protection is only going to have a max level of 5, which means that you can get 4 of those and you can have max magic protection 20, but you can't have anything greater than that. So, and that's really good because it kind of forces you to have magic protection all across the board if that's what you're going to have. Higher protection levels available are now available from the high level Zenith enchanting setups, but some still exclusive to structures. So I'm not sure how high the protection level will go in the Zenith enchanting setups, but I assume the book could explain. But if not, then I would guess you could probably see. You probably would be able to see it in REI. REI will probably show you the highest level that you can get specifically from an enchanting table. Lowered the effectiveness of knowledge potions and knowledge charms. Yeah, some people didn't know about that, and I don't include it in the experience gain guide. I don't think, at least. Or, well, I don't include it in the videos. Specifically because they can break chunks because you get so much XP. But, yeah, you can get a crazy amount of XP from the knowledge charms. It used to be, like, if you made, like, a knowledge charm, I think, like, 2 or 3, you could get like 600% XP gain, which is crazy. That's so insane when you combine that with everything else. So, they have been lowered to 200 to 400%. Increased find rate of MC dungeon weapons and chests. Yes, that's really good. I did suggest that to Muon quite a while back. I've been playing with an increased find rate because I adjusted I had a number that I adjusted in the config that I was using, and the MC dungeon weapons are very interesting. A lot of them are still very good. So yeah, it's important that you can use these weapons as well as any of the other weapons that are in the game, and that you can find these weapons because dungeon difficulty gives found weapons a boost. So it's important that the find rate of these weapons are there. Shipped modern fixes upgrade structure files to reduce log spam and improve performance. Yes, that's very good. Increase the base rate of MC dungeon weapons loot. Yeah, this is specifically how they increase the find rate. They kept the amount of bonus rolls when you have like high luckiness low, and what that means is that if you were to, let's say, when you have high luckiness and high luckiness affects something called a bonus roll, that means that instead of finding 1 MC dungeons weapons in a chest, you could find 2. That extra one would be a bonus roll, and the higher luck you have, the more chance you could have of getting bonus rolls, right? But they kept the amount of bonus rolls when you have high luck to low. And I do think that is important because you do get more interesting weapons early game when you have that base rate, but you don't want them being too common in the late game when you have a lot of high luckiness, because you do want that variety of simply swords and MC dungeons and, you know, all the other stuff that you can find in the game. Instructory towers have city treasure loot again, since loot attribute bonuses aren't scaled multiple times. So yeah, the reason Obsidian had absurd loot in a lot of the previous versions, absurd loot meaning like plus 100 damage stuff, is because it was going through multiple loot tables, which means that it would scale multiple times. And the Instructory towers had the same problem. So if you found those towers, you could get like crazy OP weapons for free back in previous versions. But now they have their loot again, because it was disabled due to this, but they have their loot again now. So if you find a tower, cool, you get good loot. You just don't get crazy absurd loot anymore. Bastion remnants now spawn more varied loot. That's really good. Variety is always the spice of life, in my opinion. Fixed 3D crafting tables not applying for some blocks. Fixed glass connected texture issues. Fixed wandering trader spawning in the ground. Yeah, that would be pretty annoying. Fixed ore to stone consistency for many modded ores. Fixed some mobs not having their damage dealt scaled. Yes, mobs are supposed to do more damage in the nether. And in the end, they're supposed to, because that place is supposed to be more dangerous because of dungeon difficulty. Everything is supposed to scale up. That does include damage from mobs. But damage wasn't being scaled in those places, but now it is. So now you do have to prepare before going to those places. Fix the formatting of warning on the land screen. That's good. Fixing formatting always helps avoid confusion. Fix some mobs and bosses unintentionally being scaled astronomically high. Yeah, yeah. That does make sense. Fix mob damage not scaling properly in RPG difficulty. Yeah, another reason why RPG difficulty is added back. Fix players being affected by difficulty modifiers. Yeah, we were supposed to be being affected by difficulty modifiers this whole time. And we weren't. Because otherwise we would have had probably a lot more interesting late game. But, yeah. Now it's fixed, though, so that's good. Blacklisting more weapons, of course, from the spell engine to fix compatibility issues. Those issues being if the weapon has a right-click ability, it will not go off because of spell engine, because you're supposed to be able to right-click to cast a spell. So if you blacklist that weapon from casting spells, then it can use its right-click ability again. A lot of the Simply Sword weapons and Souls-like weaponry weapons have right-click abilities. So remove complementary shaders in favor of complementary reimagined. It's a more vanilla-friendly shader, and a lot of people do tend to like reimagined. So remove the Mythic Mobs guidebook given on World Start, and that is because it's given on the tutorial quests now. Read those, please. Removed data packs that are no longer necessary due to the Medieval Origins Revival mod. Yes. So a lot of these data packs that we had were there because it was essentially to provide some work for Medieval Origins. But now we have the Medieval Origins Revival mod that Muon made. So that's really good. Remove the broken 1337 fleece recipe. Yay. No more accidentally converting all of your wood in your backpack in the crafting table in the backpack to fleece. Because that was a crazy bug. Remove the empty YIGD scroll recipe. So there was one recipe specifically that was like an empty recipe. It would show a crafting recipe, but there was no product from the ingredients you were using to craft. So everyone was like, well, what's this recipe for? and that's been removed. So, removed the blank better nether grinder recipe, so that was another blank recipe. Removed the Skulk Snapper quest, yes, because Skulk Snapper is disabled now. Another big one is that there were 2 magic protections in the game. There was Spell Power and there was Bewitchment. Spell Power magic protection has been removed in favor of Bewitchment. And then they disabled Spell Power's magic protection in the Spell Power config to ensure no duplicates. So yeah, there's only 1 magic protection to worry about now. Disabled Scarecrow structures from spawning due to high spawn rates and the blocks they consist of. Okay, that's good. And yeah, I did find that I could sometimes get like easy mangrove wood from Scarecrow structures, which is kind of important for the monk build when mangrove trees are supposed to be a little bit on the rare side. So, and the Pillar of the Monkey King being kind of a powerful staff. So yeah, that's, and their high spawn rates as well. They also consist of hay bales, so kind of easy to get food that way, I guess. Disable the grindstone enchant extraction. That was pretty. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit too strong. It was kind of leaning towards that side of things. Because being able to extract enchants on a grindstone, sometimes it can be pretty cheap, especially like mending. Zenith also lets you extract enchants, and Zenith's methods of doing that are a bit more balanced. So yeah, that just means we'll be going into Zenith now. But the Chronicle of Shadows Zenith guidebook is really, really good. Like, it's really good now. It gives you a lot of progression, especially for the enchant setups. So, disabled the immediately fast buffer upload for better performance on some machines. That's good. I think it might be good for older PCs. I mean, I'll know because I have one. So, disabled the Simply Swords guidebook being given on the world start because, again, it's in the tutorial quest. Read those, please. They provide a lot of useful info. So, and of course, disabling the mod menu update checker. And yeah, so the updates are 30 new structures from Wabi Sabi. There's the water dweller. There's the water dweller power for origins like Merling. That restores the thirst meter while underwater. I believe the Siren has that as well. There's the charismatic power to bards. That's going to make nearby players move faster and heal faster. So Bard is even more of a support now, which is nice. That's from RPG Origins. Added many new features for shader developers, allowing shaders to use... So, added the pure power to clerics. And that's going to make them unable to naturally heal in the nether. That's actually makes sense for clerics. So that's going to be a challenge that they face specifically. But there's also the one with the world power that they have, which is going to revert insomnia, which is when phantoms spawn, when exposed to the sun. So yeah, basically, if you're a cleric, no phantoms. For whatever reason, the RPG Origins does not like the thief, and they added the weak power to thieves, and that makes them take longer to heal when at 5 health points or under. So I don't know why they keep nerfing the thief. I personally don't think it needs a nerf. I think that a lot of the reason why the Moon Elf origin exists in the first place is because we needed a good roguelike origin. And the thief could have been it, but now it's not because it's been nerfed so much. So now we have our own in Medieval Origins Revival. We have the Moon Elf. So we don't really need to worry about the thief anymore. Added enchantment module parity with Apotheosis, which means that it's going to have the new bookshelves and the different progression, which is the Zenith mod. So that's good. It adds the Apotheosis style, the updated one for the bookshelves and progression. There's going to be support for new mods, which makes the creative inventory look more appealing. And that's the Stoneborn GUI, I believe. Adding wine racks for big-sized bottles for vinery. That's nice. So now you can put all your larger bottles in specific wine racks for those. Added missing blocks for the Prison Stone and Putrid Wood set. That's Minecells. Speaking of which, I do have to talk about, I guess, the Minecells. I guess it's going to be in here, though. Added Crimson variant of Kelp and Seagrass, which is Nether Depths. Added advancements for the Nether Depths. Nether Depths upgrade, specifically. Added Divine Smite. That's the Smite attack we were talking about from Smite-a-lot. New spell attack that can be applied on Paladin weapons. That's spell blades and such. Added a new portal room in the Promenade of the Condemned and tweaked all the old portal rooms. So that's pretty cool. Added a new overworld structure that takes you to the prisoners' quarters. I have seen it. It's very visible now. And it does have a chance to spawn an enemy called the Inquisitor. So you might have to face that enemy before going into the prisoners' quarters for Minecells. Most items usable as furnace fuel for another furniture. That's pretty cool. Imagine using like a chair as fuel, which I guess technically you could. But added sounds for rope sliding and water suds. That's supplementaries. Added some more modded biomes. Modded biome tags for various newish structures. So that's really nice. Added Wither Potion for the Nether Depths upgrade. That's kind of interesting, and I do wonder if that's going to become a potion charm as well. So you could like just wither yourself, play on like ultra hardcore. Added red falling leaf particles to promenades. So promenade's actually going to look a lot better. Added furniture hammer recipe. Added sound on planting flowers in the flower tub. Added sound on planting corals in the aquarium, which is important for supplementaries. But also, I believe these two are used to create villagers as well. So, yeah, if you actually use their workstations, you'll have sound now when doing flowers and corals. There's the glowing potion now for Nether Depths upgrade. Wow, I really wonder, that would be kind of a flex, right? If you're playing like Paladin or something, and instead of giving yourself an upgrade, you just make yourself glow. Imagine a glow potion charm. That would be sick. So you just glow everywhere as a Paladin, and the only reason you do it is as a flex. That'd be awesome. Added potion of the Steadfast Trader, Nether Depths upgrade. Replace circular dimension portals with doorways that can be broken, crafted, and placed in the overworld. So yes, you can actually place your own Minecells doorway. And it is thundering outside. Ooh. Gonna have a storm, my favorite weather. The dimensions are now divided into 1024 by 1024 areas, which cannot be crossed. That was important because a lot of players could find there was a game-breaking thing you could do, an exploit, where you could teleport from boss room to boss room and get a bunch of XP really fast by fighting conjunctivitises kind of in a row like that. But now you can't do that because of how they've been divided. Now, Archon X, which is a data pack for player X, you now get 2.5 mana per intelligence point. That is actually pretty strong, considering that Archon can have a lot of powerful items. You can now create a dormant portal to the Glass Ocean by right-clicking on the air with a Hexblade. That's really nice because a lot of people would like die in the Glass Ocean, and they would ask how they get back, and the only way to get back would be to like cast a bunch of spells and just hope that the Hexblades invade you again. So it's kind of it's kind of nice that you can just create the portal and you can go in on your own terms whenever you want. That also fixes the Hexblade issue of holding it in your inventory, but also needing it to right-click the portal that appears but the portal won't appear if it's in your inventory, so you had to hold it in your backpack. The Constitution skill has been buffed, and I can guarantee that it will be used early game on characters that have a low amount of health. It will actually help them out quite a bit because I've been playing with that. I've been playing Moon Elf, surprise, surprise. And yeah, early game, definitely go for Constitution. Constitution, it gives armor, it gives health regen, it gives magic protection, and it gives some resistances. It basically does what Constitution really should. So not only does it make sense, I do believe it's balanced, but it does really, really help the survivability of Origins that have a lot less health. So like Goblin at 5 hearts, and Moon Elf at 5 hearts. So yeah. Nerf the requirements of several Queen Desire advancements to make it less grindy, the Bumble Zone. Yeah, sometimes we really want stuff to be less grindy. Magic Missile from Spellblades and such, it's been reworked to be a reliable spell for both single target and AoE. Basically, you build up a bunch of missiles and shoot them all at once now. That's really, really nice ability. I really, really like that version of Magic Missile. Gloves are not needed anymore to craft the Winemaker Apron. Blazefish can be fished when in Fortress. Automatons now drop the gear item upon death. Improved wildfire visuals from friends and foes. Adjusted the texture on the Trans Bumblebee armor variant to make it more distinct. Dev note based. Absolutely. I actually really like that a lot. Adjusted the texture for one Honeybee leggings to make it more distinct from the other variant. Being able to tell different bee types is actually really nice. Mini Bumblezone music discs now show a link to where one can buy the song as part of the item's tooltip. So yes, support your local musicians that add the music that you like. So there's now a link to where you can actually buy the song from Bumblezone music discs. If available, of course. A compass now guided you to the entrance of your current dimension and area in Minecells. Yeah, a lot of people would go into Promenade. They would go all through it. They would go like, I don't know, 300 to 500 blocks away, find the structure that they need to go into. They would get the Vine Rune, and then they would come back out, and they'd be like, okay, what do I do now? Where's the boss? And it's like, well, the boss is back up at the first floor. So you have to go back the way you came. And then they either don't waystone or waypoint the portal. And it's like, rule of thumb, you should always do that when you go into a new dimension. But yeah, now you got to retrace your steps. But now you actually have a compass that that can guide you to the entrance of your current dimension and area in Minecells, so that you don't get lost, because a lot of people do get lost. So there's also overhauled structure generation in the Promenade, which I do like, because it did seem kind of like you did kind of go through the same stuff over and over again. So it'll be nice to see what this overhauled structure generation is. Crystalline Flower takes slightly more than 100 XP to get to tier 2. That's really good because the Crystalline Flower it can be a pretty early way of getting good enchants like Mending and stuff. So to balance it, it's kind of nice. But the big thing is it's consuming enchanted books cannot be infinitely recycled for infinite honey crystal shards. Yeah, that was that was another exploit in case people didn't know. Improved performance on views lookup by roughly 20% for REI. So that's nice, less REI lag. Insufferable Crypts leads back to the overworld. The arena is also closed off by 2 doors, and they are locked until you kill the boss. So yeah, once you're in that room with the boss, you're in that room. You cannot leave that room. You can't find a whole bunch of bosses and then waystone to all of them either. Once you are in that room with conjunctivitis, you are in there until conjunctivitis is dead, or until you are dead. So, speaking of conjunctivitis, they improved the look of its tentacle swinging animation. All seat blocks now emit a comparative signal of 15 with sat in. That's kind of interesting. You can trigger something when someone sits in a seat block. Made not the smartest, which is one of the origin abilities. Remove 35% of XP instead of 50%. Yeah, 50% is kind of harsh. I think 35% is fair and more balanced. A tooltip that the tooltip is shown that tells you if you've already visited the prisoner quarters area, or in the area that you're in. So that is really nice to know, so that you don't get confused. Curtains now connect to similar shelves and planter boxes, making it easier to join together. Curtains have also been overhauled to look more vanilla, so they no longer have their animated model. There's the Field the Goat Horn Bard ability. Okay, I see what it's saying. So there is a goat horn. Bards have different goat horns that they can use, and the different songs they sing have names. Feel is one of those, and Feel was giving Regeneration 1, but now it gives Regeneration 2, and it's a lingering pool, so everyone gets Regeneration 2, so that's nice every single time you play Feel. Shutters can be interacted through specific blocks like glass blocks, panes, and fences. So shutters are more interactable now. Shutters can also open all their connected counterparts when powered by redstone rather than only itself. That kind of gives me an idea. Hold on. If you can sit... Where was the sitting thing? Yeah, all seat blocks emit a comparator signal of 15 with sat in. So I wonder if someone can just sit down and then trigger shutters opening. That would be kind of interesting. But yeah, made Crimson and Warp Kelp Seagrass more common in their respective biomes. Renamed Not the Strongest to Untrained. Yep, I think that is actually a better name. Improved the recipe for soap. Stools can now be hammered to lower them by 1 pixel to help you match them with the sofa builds. So yeah, stools and sofas match in height now, which is really good, especially for people who are OCD about that, which I would be if I was building like a fancy house using this mod. Non-players can now sit in seats. Either make them walk on top of the seat or right-click the block with a leashed mob so that they will sit on the block. Right-click the seat again to eject them. So yeah, all your pets can sit with you. I wonder how that works with modded mobs. Imagine a dragon just sitting down in like an actual seat. Elevators can now be powered with hidden redstone, so that's pretty cool, especially if you want to create like an elevator that seamlessly works. You can just use hidden redstone. I just said rarities for a bunch of the structures. Each set item of the winemaker set now loses 2% durability after using the set bonus. Magic protection buff to be more symmetric to armor. So I believe that's going to be the magic protection that you get from Constitution, from Balance X. So yeah, Constitution definitely got pretty buffed, and that there's definitely a good reason to use it now. As a matter of fact, it might go into the tank build now, especially since they lost their big ability that made them like crazy, stupidly OP. Fruits and drinks from Promenade, Vinery, and Meadow are now more compatible with Origins. Simplified the code for registering fuels. Should now automatically register any short, tall doors as fuel that meet the 2 criteria of being wooden and not flammable. Okay. So spawner runes have been reworked. The spawner runes were the things that spawned mobs and Minecells, and they are now entities, and they're activated. You can place blocks at their position, and they go away when they spawn mobs, and they generally don't come back, I believe. Unless this is talking about something else. This could be talking about something else, because there is also... I think there is also another thing, and it might be called a spawner rune. Because basically, how the spawners work now is that they're actually, it's a little floating orange things instead of an orange spawner, and the mobs spawn, and then that orange thing goes away. So basically, Minecells are no longer farmable. Well, they're less farmable than they used to be because you can actually create these spawner runes, and this will actually reset the Minecells so that all those orange floating things that spawn the entities are back. So you'll see what I mean when you go into a Minecells, but this might be actually what they're talking about. So yeah. Average for percent spell power relics has been decreased from 15 to 50 to 15 to 45%. So basically, if you're going to get a, let's say, a fire spell power relic, right? And you're looking for like a plus 50% fire spell power relic or a plus 48% or whatever. Yeah, you're not going to find it anymore. The max you can get is 45. And honestly, that's fair. Spell power is really strong. So I removed a unused generic loot table, which caused errors in the console from Wabi Sabi. Anyone can now drink rat poison, and this is my favorite, lean, and Mobilk 1 from Origins. Control F now works outside edit mode to search for quests. Damage bonuses are now percent based for better mod compatibility and balance. So strength is percentage now. It's not flat damage. It's not 0.25. It's actually 2% per point, which is really important for the monk build because the only way to get flat damage now is to use the strength effect. So you're going to be using Berserker's Fury 3 probably early on as a monk, and then to get strength so you can get that flat damage so that your attack damage actually scales with the staff. And then what warriors are going to notice is that what weapon you use at the end of the game is really going to matter a lot now that everything is percent based. So it's going to be kind of interesting, and it's going to really, it's going to really kind of if a weapon is slow and hits hard, but you like the fact that it's slow and hits hard, basically that percentage is just going to make it hit harder. If you like more consistent damage, then you'll be dealing more consistent damage with that percentage as long as you're putting a lot into that percentage. So that's basically how that's going to work. Same with archery, with dexterity is going to add percent range damage instead of flat range damage, and you might be wondering how you get range damage now, and that's because projectile damage mod from Daedalus exists and it's in the pack, and that's where your flat damage is, so you can actually get percentage off of dexterity now. And then another interesting thing is that intelligence, instead of adding any spell power, it's actually going to add 0.2% spell haste. So you can actually cast spells faster when you put points into intelligence, and that's also going to be something that's going to make casters a lot more viable. And then the the Wizard X tab with Fire, Arcane, Frost, and Healing, they're going to add 2.5% of their respective spell powers, and then they're also going to add 2.5% spell critical damage. So that's what you're actually going to be using for damage now. So all spell stats are going to be viable and useful. And that does change the builds a little bit, and that also is going to... the legendary build, specifically Starforge, is going to change once again because it was Primordial Robes, but now it's going to be back to Aetherfire, but that's going to be gone over in the V23 legendary Starforge build video. Ducks now only breed with fish from naturalists. So you grab fish, and that's what you use to breed ducks. Underground structures that spawn in water now attempt to force source blocks and reduce weird air pockets. That's good. We don't like our air pockets underwater not you know, unintended ones. All Marine Observation Hub barrels now have loot, but the amount of loot is drastically reduced. Yeah, you know, for balance. Slightly modified design of Sphinx in the Sphinx hidey hole. Reduce the amount of candles that generate in the candle maker house. Improved mod compatibility from right-click harvest, lions, ryans, and elephants. Oh my. Now only attack players if they attack their baby or themselves. That's nice. I don't want a random lion attacking me. I don't want it to be hostile. Birds now emit no block particles when their ambient noise plays, and they do not make ambient noises at night. That is more realistic, yeah. Fireflies now spawn in small groups across the overworld. Savannah mobs are going to spawn more regularly. Yeah, get your ice packs ready. Rename the grizzly bear to the brown bear. That is good because the brown bear is, I think, the more technical name that is used. Hippos spawn more often, mostly near water sources. Mini performance improvements, fixed lag on low-end machines. That's immediately fast. Performance and stability improvements from iris shaders when using shaders. And performance and stability improvements, loading times and memory usage. Modern fix. And of course, all the mods have been updated. So, to recap the fixes, players now have difficulty modifiers. There was a swamp village crash in overhaul villages. There was a memory leak in Magnum Torch that's been fixed. Scaled passenger writing offsets have been fixed. So Pakui usually has to do with the size of the player. So the size of the player for, I'm guessing, writing mounts has been fixed. Elemental specialization level up key hover descriptions. Basically, when you hover over fire, it says what it's going to give you now because that has been changed to 2.5% of fire spell power and 2.5% crit damage, spell crit damage. Same with the other elements. So that description, of course, would have to change to match that change. Crash when language is set to Turkish. I had no idea that that was even a crash. It's good that that's fixed, though. Protection against random crashes caused by the UI, which is the spell engine one. Players sometimes disconnecting when using a GUI function, binary, egg hatching subtitles. Drake sounds. Good. Our drakes are making sounds again from mythic mobs. Mountain village not spawning villagers from repurposed structures. And I did kind of notice that sometimes, but irregular lag spikes when your GPU is under heavy load. Fast buffer upload freezing in some cases on Intel iGPUs. Well, that's good because actually I don't have an Intel iGPU. I have an NVIDIA, but I know some people do have Intel iGPUs. So, color of potion icons in Bumble Zone. Shroom lights being mistaken for leaves. Wow, I didn't even know that was a thing, but okay. Planter box cull facing issues when a solid block is above it. Map warnings from table supports. Duplication bug when crafting terminal. Pings not clearing when switching worlds or dimensions. Crash due to process cape textures. Mud drying in incorrect biomes. That's good. Because mud can actually be useful for things. If you read the mod page and go to the wiki for immersive weathering. Saplings drying in incorrect biomes. Snowy and sandy wall models being broken. Bone mealing hanging roots being able to break any block. I imagine that would be intrusive. Wall hanging roots not being waterloggable. Weeds not dropping wheat. So they're supposed to drop wheat. Weeds dropping wheat, sorry. Yeah, they're not supposed to drop wheat, and they were apparently. That's interesting. Some items being compostable. Oh, some items not being compostable, sorry. Inconsistencies with block charring and ash. Sled textures. Old tiny house having multiple armor stands instead of one. Usually I would only see one, but I guess that was a possibility. They could have multiple armor stands. It's usually an old house, and then there'll be an armor stand in the basement, and it'll have like leather armor. And yeah, they could have multiple, but now they only have one. So fix the crash from guard villagers. Steel life knife recipe has been fixed. Random crashes from journey map. Integration has been fixed. Had a mobs that would grow with shaders when the game is paused. Oh, the naturalist mobs. Yeah, that's been fixed. Broken window icon and title from fancy menu could cause crashes. Fixed mini fixes and compatibility improvements from cultural delights. Fixes and optimizations from HT treetops, which is the one that destroys trees and a bunch of wood blocks drop at once. So I imagine so. Mini fixes from brewing and chewing, and iris shaders. So yeah, and finally, of course, we're gonna thank Muon. He has been contributing quite a lot. Data packs, configs, and now we have Medieval Origins Revival and such. And Muon is now a dev of Lunapixel Studios, so congratulations and thank you to Muon. Winnebagle, forking decorative blocks for us, and also maintaining Zenith, which honestly is a heck of a mod to maintain. An incredible amount of work has been done to get Zenith up to par to where it needs to be. So, and continuing that maintenance. So thank you, Winnebagle. Grong Lassette reporting bugs and being cool. Yes, thank you, Grong, and of course Forg, otherwise known as Clean Rooster, dev of Spellblades and such, contributing configs and helping us out, and of course Chorb. Yay! Thank you, Chorb. And of course, thank you, Sharky, for making all the mod packs and such. And thank you to all the staff for working hard. So, you guys are awesome. And that being said, we're finally done with this update. And I will be making V23 build guide videos. That's what we'll be continuing with. My next video will be pretty much just glossing over some of the changes and how it's going to affect the different builds. And then that's going to be put in the playlist for V22. I'm going to rename the playlist to V22/V23 so that it should be pretty consistent to follow. And then all the build guides from then on will be V23. And then, yeah, that'll be it from me. So I will see you guys later. Bye.